before we get into this evening's live and we start to go over just a few of the talking points, the headline today about what could likely be a 6% drop that could happen pretty imminently. I'll show you the conditions for that to see if this does end up happening. We do have many different ways to avoid this. It's just the way we're trending at this very moment. It seems more likely than not that we'll get that tap down, but there are still many ways to avoid it. We're still in that zone where it can be very easily avoidable. But it was kind of the way I wanted to lead the headline. I didn't want it to sound very bullish. I wanted it to in fact sound like, oh, we're bearish, we're done, there's no chance here. Maybe taper off some of the speculators and have the ones who are like, you know what, let's see what the heck is really going on here. And I think it's important on times like this because we are going into a thinly traded weekend. We do know every single weekend of the year thus far, we've had a bearish drop in totality. So it's been a red weekend for 17 weeks in a row. So the entire year of 2025, you know, we've had the unfortunate, for lack of a better word, the unfortunate events that we've been bearish, you know, the entire time. So, you know, that's something that does happen. It also, it also makes it to where, you know, you might be onto this for, let's say, almost the entirety of things. Like you're watching, and then all of a sudden, you're like, you know, I've been watching this for a while. I kind of feel like nothing's happening. No matter where I buy in, it ends up falling down a little bit farther than I expected. You know, and you start to develop that mindset. And what ends up happening is you start to fall in the trap of, okay, well, they tell you to cost average in. So now I guess what they mean is it doesn't matter. I just got to keep buying. I got to keep having money on the sideline. And every time it drops, I just buy. Even though that's not technically what you want to be doing. You want to make sure it's like kind of in a, maybe not even a concerted way, but it's more in a timely fashion. But I want the feeling today to be, you know what? We have the weekend coming up, but we want to see how we can start to push. We want to see how we can start to push out. We want to be positive here. Don't let the headline fool you. It's not completely over yet. Because I could make a strong argument that we could pull up before coming down and trying to validate the entirety of this. And we can argue that because we could say we've already back tested the channel and actually held it so far. So that's one way we can look at that and perceive it as maybe not being as big of a drop. From where we're at, the downside potential, if we're going to stay bullish, is still 13.2%. I decided to add that on here so that even when we're looking through our statistics, we can still see the downside that we may have to deal with here, even if it stays bullish. And I thought that this was a good way to do it. Very simple thing to add, but yet so effective. So I think it's going to be a good tool to utilize there. And we'll remeasure it if we have to, you know, if it goes up too much or down too far. And it'll tighten our zone. But this is telling us exactly if we need to come in for that further consolidation or if we're going to come back down and double bottom. That immediate 6% drop does not bring you back inside the zone, if I'm being honest. If we came down here, oh, wait a minute, it comes in this zone. I meant below the, let's see. I don't think it, no, see, this is way down here. This is way farther than that. Where's the other chart? I don't think it would drop you below this area. You know, I mean, that is getting close if it were to come down, though. That's the thing. And I don't want to keep this on here because we already have the inverse head and shoulders that I drew out on the one chart pretty in depth. That's the tops. When we drew this out, those were the topping reversal that we were worried about. And if that was the case, then it would reset. And we talked about that. And that would kind of be like the reset point where it could come all the way down to here. And then we would have the inverse right shoulder, yada, 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 so on and so forth. But there's so many different things to watch here. Yeah, this is how it would do that. If it came down to that $1.93 to $1.95 area or so and still maintained its bullish pressure. But I mean, this could get a little dicey here. if we start to rotate back down. And it kind of sucks that we're sitting here close to the weekend. And when you're looking at this is almost winding back around. We need a springboard here. You know, I'm just saying, we need a springboard here. Because if this does pull down and it's like a right shoulder here, I mean, you're talking about a drop down. See, that's that $1.97 area again. That's what keeps popping up. That's that area that it's like a 6% drop that keeps popping up. You know, in the short term, assuming we don't get a big bullish bounce here. Now, in a little bit of reading we're going to do today, we did have Ripple whale activity surging. And then there was a 273 million XRP transfer. Can that shake up the market? We had XRP achieve a historic moment versus Ethereum. But, you know, we'll read into it and you can decide how good or bad or how big of a difference this would make to the market. And then last but not least, the XRP price watches, the moving average convergence divergence cross cools bearish pressure, but sets the stage for a fresh push. And I'll show you within this as well for the MACD where exactly is the bullish areas and exactly where would be the breakdown. Obviously, if we break down below that $1.95, it's criminal because then we'd have to come down almost all the way down. So we got to stay over, in my opinion, like that 208 area was a big area, but the make it or break it zones around that $1.95, because after that, I mean, you're talking very clearly probably down to a minimum of $1.63. Yes, there's a stopping point at $1.83, but twice it's basically said, nah, this isn't a great area of support, and it even went down to $1.61 or $1.62 roughly in the short term. So, and then the crypto fear and greed index, let's refresh this. It is at 30. So I mean, it's still in fear, but it's rose a little bit. Last week it was at 39. A couple weeks earlier it was down in the high teens. So it's definitely been very volatile in that sense. But we'll look at the XRP charts. We'll try to see and decipher exactly where we think this can go next and how to avoid that, you know, next big drop. We do see XLM was up about 2.5%. It's been kind of stuck though. XLM, a lot of these other ones, I've been stuck in a zone for quite some time, and we're kind of getting to that point where we're going to have to figure this out one way or another. Like, we are going to have to figure this out. So I'll turn the comments on shortly. Please make sure to hit that like button so YouTube does recommend this live. You know, it's one of those things right now. I think these are the most important times to be paying attention to the market, especially if you're trying to find some kind of way to make money, because you can watch it go through these time periods. And when most people are like, I'm done. You don't know how many people I've seen say, Tom, I followed your channel, but I can't watch until we get back into a real bull cycle again. I just can't watch it like this and lose money. I can't afford it. But I'll keep watching you when it's time. So they're like, you know, it's been fun kind of thing, but I'll see you in the next bull rally. And that's what happened last time. And, you know, we get to a smaller confined group, but it does make it a little bit easier in some senses. Because when you get back into the bullish cycle, like when I ask, or you're trying to get advice from someone, you want to see somebody who's been here through the thick and thin. You know, you want to see somebody who's not afraid to stick around during a bearish cycle. Like I've been saying, we're in a bear market right now. And that's why you see red more predominantly over green. Even when you see green, you see higher red. You know, it's converse to the gold market where it's in a bull market. So every time you see red, you're seeing higher green. But you still see red. Like today, there was red. It was a good opportunity for risk assets to make a move. They just didn't take advantage of it. The fact that the Dow was down another 527 points or better than 1.3%, while gold was correcting. And it was only less than 0.5% as it turned out. And silver corrected by about, it came back to almost even now. So it barely even corrected now. That's a phenomenal pullback up. It wasn't even that big, but it's been correcting very, very nicely as this goes on. So please make sure to hit that like button so YouTube does recommend these lives. We've been doing quite low on the likes. I don't talk about it, but I would really appreciate if you did do it. Today we have 79 people watching so far, 35 likes. So it definitely, you know, it helps us push through the algorithm and it helps my content get pushed out there. But, you know, to each their own. Not everybody's going to hit that like button. So good evening. 6:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Thursday, April 17th, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. And I get it, everybody. I get it how it can be repetitive. I get it how when we're not making money on a day-to-day basis, when it's not going up in crypto, it's almost like, what's the point of watching every single day or every single update or every single detail that's actually coming across? But we have learned something today. The European Central Bank lowered rates by 25 basis points. LaGuardia, or whatever the hell that lizard's name is. And I'm sorry, JW, I won't go farther down that path. My bad. Came out and said that they were kind of discussing 50, but it was unanimous 25. And they kind of tied it to, you know, tariffs and some other things. But you can tell they're going to continue to cut rates. And Jerome Powell's giving the false illusion that they're just going to stay firm. But eventually here, we're not going to get a 50 basis cut. They're probably going to do a 75 a few times, shake it up a bit. And even if they stand pat, I mean, it's all this pressure they're going to release in the wrong direction. And, you know, in the market sense, the tariffs have backfired, so they're going to have to do something. It hasn't backfired. The plan was to devalue the dollar and allow a cycle of quantitative easing instead of quantitative tightening, and lower interest rates while simultaneously devaluing the dollar. Not good for us in America, not good for the consumer, not good for the business, you know, the American business, at least small business, certainly not good for retail, but it gives you a false illusion here, because generally in quantitative easing, it's very good for risk assets. Generally, when they lower rates, it's very good for risk assets. Now, the only difference here is that we're in a credit crunch, and we're at a point in the USA worse than it's ever been, where people are literally maxed out on even credit cards. So you have to start asking yourself, where's this money coming from? Well, if it's coming from taxes, I don't think enough people make enough or get enough back in taxes to be able to fund this with how many bills that they're behind. So when normally, yes, maybe they would have thrown those $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in tax returns on crypto. Now it's going to give them a little relief on their pressure from maybe a credit card, maybe an overdue tax bill, maybe an overdue house payment or electricity. So I think some of that market's going to not find the market. Now the money, the M2 money supply, I mean, that's something. But is it a reality that's going to happen in the near term, long term, short term, midterm, you know? And is it just speculation over reality, or is it reality over speculation? I don't know. It seems like there could be legs to it, but until it happens, we're kind of at the mercy of what the market makers and what, you know, the decision of our government is. And crypto used to be a zero-sum game when it came to the government, where you didn't have to worry about so much of their overreach. Yes, there was market manipulation and trading bots and, you know, algorithms, bot algorithms, and stupid things like that that go on all the time. It's no different than if you play a video game and you have hackers that use special controllers, special software, special data, special this and that to get the edge. Same thing that happens with the market makers. They're here to make money after all. So, you know, we get this little false illusion, but at the same time, we're getting a lot of news and notes here that speak volumes. We're getting a lot of data here within the charts that are telling us what we need to see. We're getting a lot of information that's dictating a worldwide war that should be escalating here at any moment. I talked about last weekend how it could be the start of something deeper, and it looks like it's starting now because we had some airstrikes I know of, and I see it keeps flashing across my screen. But there's some things in the world tension to where, because of that kind of stuff, some of the money that might have found its way to risk assets gets pulled out of risk assets and goes to a safe haven because it's just uncertainty. Even the bond market starts to get depleted. You get a lot of world governments that pull out of the US dollar and bond markets, and then it ends up having this little surge to the downside, actually a breakdown, I should say. And then it is an ever-expanding increase in quantitative easing and rate cuts because they're trying to balance, because we've got a pretty hefty interest payment coming due. It's more than several $1 trillion, let's just put it that way. So the interest rates have got to be as low as possible when they make this interest payment. So they got to do something, and we're getting closer to Q3 now. So I mean, we're almost there. We're getting close. So they got to do something here in the next couple of months. Like, literally, real talk, there's no choice. So I'm going to turn the comments on, but I thought it was important to kind of go, I kind of like the, you know, that kind of thing, because we like seeing your face. What, I'm going to have to look through the comments. But yeah, it's not necessarily a rant. It's just, well, I guess in a sense it is a rant. But I think this is just some stuff we have to consider in the market. And, I don't know. There's just a lot of things that are going on here. Algo and H bar stuck too. Yeah, they're all stuck. It looks like we're getting stuck. It very well looks like we're gonna test those new lows. I appreciate everybody being in here. Members of Tom's Army. We've got Mark, the Gatman, Papa Wheelie, Jorge, Mo, Wales, Josie Wales, Frankie, Marco, Aaron, Hollowed Nation in his first month, which I love seeing the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Mark Caston, Mr. Carter, hashtag M2C, and Tom's Army for over 3 years with Diamond Hands badge. John Patak, Arichi, Joseph Euler. Thank you all so much for being in Tom's Army. It means a lot to me. Corium and Sologenic are always relevant. It's just they tend to drop off massive amounts. I think Corium, because they offer so much in staking, it has no choice but to go down overall, especially when it has big rallies, because I always think they pay the stakers their stake by having the price drop on them. So they offer extraordinary staking in return, but yet they lose more. So if you have a 45% stake and the APR says it's going to take a year, it doesn't matter if you're locked up. You're looking to get that 45%. You're going to keep it there for a year and just let it do whatever. Well, that means probably in a year it'll be down 60%. You know, and that's just what I've gotten used to. And that comes with experience. So I don't get too excited about it. I know some people in here got caught with Capybara and some other things, and they seen it, and it, I don't know, I try to teach life lessons with crypto as well, more than just, you guys are welcome for the shout out. I love talking about my members of Tom's Army. I really do. And everybody in particular. It was just so many comments that I could only pick and choose there, so I went with Tom's Army. But I think these are the times where if we get smarter here, I mean, look when we get into the time of true buying potential, and this could be an opportunity, but it'll allow you to be more secure in your own decision. So what I think we do here is we look at it. We look at it and say, okay, well, we've already tapped one, so how do we avoid the bearish route? First of all, how do we avoid having to come back down into the range of like that $1.94 area? And it's pretty simple. I think it's pretty simple. And the fact we drew this out in real time before these drops started happening so that we could have a basis, well, it's following one path so far. So we got one hit of support. We have support, support. Right now we're kind of cutting down here. And you can see, if we just want to cut this off, you start from the resistance, hit a resistance, and we've kind of done something like this. So, I mean, you could say, if we want to be safe, we got to break over that. Ironically, that's your measure point right now. That's your max distance right now, and it's squeezing now. This is when it starts to squeeze. And now if it breaks down, you can keep squeezing it if you want. Like, you can keep pulling it down, and then eventually, even this part's going to squeeze into this, and you're eventually going to have something like that. So then we start looking at it from a wider scale. Can it hold the shorter scale, or does it really have to come back down? So now that we start layering it, it really shows me two different distinct patterns that are still bullish, but they're completely different. One can break out much sooner. It just needed the validation of a support hit here, which it got at 203. And then it's going to have to make sure it holds, and when it breaks out, it can move. Now, if it comes down here, this looks like an M-topping reversal. Right arm kind of looks like a bear flag, possibly, if it can't get any steam. That should pull us down into the first range. And that could bring us to $1.95. The ultimate pull down would be down to $1.83. That would be worst case scenario, somewhere in that range. So that's why I put the 13% swing range there. And I think the way it's set up, I'm not drawing a helicopter. You know, old-fashioned airplane, I should say. But, you know, it's really showing a destiny here. Like, are we topping here in those three peaks? Like, did we get a sneaky three-peak top here? Which I highlighted on the other chart, but I can do here again just for, you know, one. What the hell? All right, let me try this again. Good old trading view. Oh, I can't see anything, so that's my own fault because I forgot to take off the one drawing tool, so that makes sense. So let's do this again. I mean, we have plenty of time here, and I'd like to take my time going through this. Like, yesterday sucked because I was so rushed. Even though we got some information out, it was rushed. I had a rush day. Well, even today was a rush day, but I I embrace every day. So could we have had like a 3-peak top here, right? 1, 2, 3. And then this would be the right shoulder and arm on the topping reversal. Take the elevator up, take the stairs down. Now would it be a split here, or would it come down here to bounce out? So that would be the thing if it makes that destinational move. So I'm here for this. I'm here to see exactly how this plays out. And the only way to get the feedback here in real time is to watch it every day. You know, sometimes even this gets repetitive. This gets repetitive. Not doing the show gets repetitive, but when it gets stuck in the same cycle and I got to show the same thing day after day after day after day, and you're waiting for that inevitable move, but by showing it day after day, when something doesn't move the way it's supposed to. In fact, you can tell if something's gone off, off the rail, and you'll be able to see when it's supposed to make the appropriate move. UK Phil, welcome in, my friend. I really, really appreciate that. Frankie says, I think it's all about China. Once we start talking to China, things will get better. Nah. I don't think you guys understand exactly how deep that is going right now with China. Like, it's a lot worse than just China. I know there's the illusion that China's the enemy and all this, but the U.S. does a lot of very dirty things to a lot of various places. I don't want to get into it. And thank you, UK Phil, for being in Tom's Army for over a year. I really appreciate that with the I told you so badge. But before I get myself in trouble, let's go over some of this reading. Because it does start to play into it. Kyle Kupiak, Tom, you and I haven't missed a day in 4 years. Thank you. I appreciate that, Cape Cod Kyle. Oh, I know it's true. You've been here every single day of this journey. It's pretty remarkable when I see some of you that have been in here since 2021, and now here we are almost midway through 2025. Can you believe that? We're getting closer to midway point of 25 already. It's unbelievable. It's true, the older you get, the quicker the years go. I swear I just blinked and it was Christmas. It's insane. Ripple whale activity surges. Will 273 million XRP transfer shake the market? Recent happenings with whales have caused turbulence in the XRP market. A transaction of 131 million XRP tokens, which is around 273 million worth, has sent jitters among investors. This occurrence comes during the tough battle of XRP and attempting to cut through the resistance at $2.16. Large wallet transfers raise questions about market stability. As per blockchain monitoring by Whale Alert, an unknown owner moved 131 million XRP between wallets in a single transaction. The activity prompted conversations on trading platforms as investors attempted to decipher the move. The wallet addresses used have been traced to any known exchanges or parties, further fueling uncertainty. This was not a one-off action, though only 12 hours ago another big holder transferred XRP valued at 63 million. These consecutive moves by major token holders indicate that a trend may be emerging. Some observers think these may be over-the-counter transactions, while others are concerned about potential selling pressure to materialize. And then this is the Whale Alert, 131 million XRP valued at $273,945,648 in USD. Transferred from unknown wallet to unknown wallet. XRP has been unable to break the $2.17 barrier in the recent times despite several attempts. These rejections have undermined bullish momentum and driven the price lower. According to reports, XRP traded at approximately $2.06 within the past 24 hours and was down by about 4%. The digital asset had registered a positive growth in last week with a gain of 14%. Yet this upward momentum or movement wasn't sustained even after the noise surrounding whale movement. The unplanned realignment of tokens is causing traders immediately across the marketplace to respond adversely. Market catalyst Cassie Trades indicates that XRP might drop towards a support level lower than $1.90 in case the downtrend persists. The analyst even indicated it likely dropped to $1.55 if the volume of selling gains momentum higher than the present volumes. Such prices may present chances for buying once market interest reemerges. And then it says, Justin, Swift nearing agreement with Ripple to use XRP for cross-border payments with billions of XRP secured in escrow as liquidity reserves. If this is true, we are going to 10,000. Yeah, that's... But, you know, it's interesting if that happens. Hey, I've been talking about the Christmas... Or the... If we can do this properly going into Easter, we could very well have a pump either Easter Sunday or the Monday after and finally break this bearishness. But we'll see if it plays out. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. We've taken one of the paths that it needs to out of 3 that could potentially lead us to a very bullish push. There are still some analysts who think XRP has a bright future, although it's been weak recently. Investors get excited sometimes due to rumors of an XRP ETF and a potential agreement with payment systems. Swift, but nothing significant has happened in the market from those expectations so far. Currently, market participants are split. Large institutional trades and price pullbacks at key levels are resulting in conflicting views. The $1.90 to $1.55 support zone is critical. XRP must remain above this zone for the price to have any possibility of increasing soon. The market is still following XRP closely in anticipation of concrete news. Whale movement and the chronic resistance at $2.16 are decisive factors in the direction of the market in the next few days. So I really like that article. I seen some were talking about ZBCN, so I'll go to that and then I'll read the next one after. ZBCN up 22%. For it to start getting really, really hot, it's bouncing off that support structure still. It maintained that perfectly. And now it's bouncing out. It's going to have to come up to like that, roughly the 013, but more so, it's going to have to break the second layer as well. So it's going to have to get over 143 and hold that, and then start to push up and out. We'll see if this is maybe the start of something. It's starting to push past, you know, some of the areas, but it just came up to the 200-day in a daily time frame. And if it's meant to be rejected, that hit it, so now it's got to take advantage and go past it, because there's still a death cross very much looming large there. So it's got a lot of work to invalidate it, and it actually got a rejection at the 200, which technically you got to break above that and start holding that in the daily to start showing more bullishness. But it definitely had a volatile surge, but if it's just meant to tap the 200-day, that volatility could go very quickly back to the downside. Some would argue it might have given an exit strategy for some who were trying to get out and got a quick pump. Or, you know, others would argue that it's the start of something even bigger. So XRP price, watch MACD, the moving average convergence, divergence, cross, cools, bearish pressure, set stage for fresh push. So XRP was changing hands at $2.10 on April 17, 2025, giving the ledger's native token a market capitalization of $122 billion and $2.5 billion in 24-hour trading volume. During the session, the price ranged between $2.07 and $2.11, a tight band that has chart watchers primed for the next decisive break. In the 1-hour view, XRP continues to unwind a compact wedge that has printed progressively higher lows from the $2.03.5 though while failing to vault the $2.13 ceiling. Compressed volume and shrinking candle bodies underscores an imminent expansion. Bulls appear willing to defend the $2.09, yet sellers reliably cap every spike toward the mid $2.10. A convincingly hourly close above $2.13 would likely invite momentum buying toward $2.20. Whereas a slip beneath $2.06 risks spilling the token back to the psychological $2 handle. The 4-hour candle chart shows a gentle descending channel stretching from April 14th swing high at $2.24. The current level's price continues to recycle between $2 and $2.10 as the falling topside trend line pressure tempers each rally. Notably, successive pullbacks into the $1.99 to $2 zone attract steady bid flow, hinting at accumulation by patient participants positioning for an upside break. Should XRP pierce $2.15 on convincing volume. The next confluence resistance is near $2.20 to $2.22. Failure to hold $1.98 would invalidate the constructive channel bias, which we really need to hold. On the daily time frame, April's earlier washout to $1.61 looks increasingly like capitulation, with higher lows now marching price toward the pivotal $2.20 to $2.25 supply shelf. Volume on advances exceeds that of declines, and the candle structure suggests bulls are testing the resilience of trendline sellers from late March peak of $2.59. A daily close north of $2.25 would confirm a mild trend change and point to an untouched $2.40 to $2.45 cluster, while a rejection would keep the broader range-bound profile intact. Oscillator readings support the wait-and-see stance. The relative strength index, RSI, hovers at 48.3, reflecting neither an exhaustion nor deep discount. The stochastic oscillator holds near 75, signaling short-term overbuying without yet tipping bearish. Meanwhile, the commodity channel index, CCI, at 29 and the average directional index, ADX, at 21 indicate modest momentum and a maturing trend. The awesome oscillator's marginal negative histogram, coupled with a positive momentum print, paints a mixed picture, while moving average convergence divergence MACD logs a slight bullish crossover at minus 0.048. Overall, the indicator composite leans neutral to cautiously optimistic, awaiting a definitive price catalyst. Moving average signals highlights the market's short-term tilt toward buyers, but emphasize still overhead friction. The 10-day exponential moving average, EMA, at $2.07.9, and the 10-day or the 10-period simple moving average, SMA, at $2.05.1 flash bullish cues. Yet the 20-period EMA at $2.10 already flips to bearish, highlighting nearby resistance. Longer baselines reinforce that narrative. The 30 to 50 and 100 period exponential moving average and simple moving averages all sit above spot and flash sell, while the 200 period EMA at 195.9 and 200 period SMA at 191.9 remain supportive. Taken together, XRP's compressed range of top rising long-term floors favors a breakout scenario, but traders require a decisive settlement beyond short-term averages to unlock momentum. The bull verdict. A decisive hourly break above $2.13 paired with a daily settlement beyond $2.25, which is just a close above, would likely trigger follow-through buying toward $2.40, confirming short-term bullish control and extending the climb built on April's capitulation lows. The bear verdict would be a drop below $2.06 that closes the day under $2, would tip momentum to sellers, exposing the $1.95 safety net, reopening the path toward the spring trough near $1.61. So I really like that article a lot. Like, that one I really liked. I don't know if I can see comments, but you know, it's the way it's gone lately. It's fine. I can still do my live. I just can't see as much stuff. And then the feat that XRP achieved towards Ethereum before we get back into the charts. So XRP achieves historic feat against Ethereum. XRP on track to score 6 months of overperformance against Ethereum. So the Ripple-linked XRP cryptocurrency is on track to score its 6th consecutive month of positive returns against arch rival Ethereum for the first time in history. In November, the token gained a whopping 161% against Ethereum, and this trend ended up persisting through 2025. In March, the XRP Ethereum pairing was up by nearly 20% in the month. The token has so far added turnaround compared to the previous year. Over the period from November 23 to May 24, XRP recorded as many as 7 consecutive months of negative performance. In February 2024, XRP plunged by as much as 20.4% against the flagship altcoin. XRP has managed to carry its Q4 momentum well into 2025 with positive developments in the Securities and Exchange Commission versus Ripple case, as well as growing exchange-traded fund buzz. As reported by you today, multiple analysts believe that a spot-based XRP ETF is already a done deal in the U.S. So, not much to read there. I just wanted to go over that. Not a crazy thing. Still an achievement nonetheless. We continue to sit in, I wouldn't say no man's land, but, you know, it's kind of in that spot where we're waiting for a decisive move. There's no doubt about it. I'm waiting for a decisive move one way or the other. Bitcoin right now, to its credit, in the 4-hour time frame, is holding that golden cross beautifully right now. So we're trying to invalidate any kind of bearish thesis, but at the same time, we're trying to validate some kind of bullish momentum here. You know, we just haven't got that follow through as of yet. But the technical targets up here could be as high as 99,640. First target's 87,691 on a push up. Second resistance, in my opinion, is 93,136. And the last and final tug would be all the way up to 99,646. And that's not the finale, but it could be the short-term finale if we were to take the up route. Now, if we take the down route, you know, we would have to come back down and now break below like 81,007. No, it's lower than that now, because you'd have to come all the way through here, like 81,100. So there is some room here, and there is a case to be made with that inverse pattern. Now, it didn't come all the way down here, so we have to make sure that it's not going to come back down. But right now, it's a breakout still. It's back tested it slightly, and there's still a real good opportunity here, as long as it stays above and over the top, that we could have a marginal move up here. And it's not like, oh my God, it's the end of the world move, but it still is a move. First tier would be about 3.4%. The second part of the move is about 10%. And overall, it's pushing about 17.5%. So if Bitcoin moved that far, and one could argue that it is setting up some kind of cup and handle here as well. Like maybe it's rounding the bottom of a handle and now it's pushing up. Because one could argue that whoops. That it came around like this, and then maybe it does form something like that, right? So we'll see. Always speculation here. That's the best part of doing technical analysis. You can speculate, you can wonder, and you can kind of bounce your ideas off of what you think. But my idea, or what my thinking is, I think a lot of people understand that I have more of like the bearish agenda here, not by choice, but kind of by design. But I'm hoping for the best here. Hoping for the best here. Pump Master Flash. You are not blocked. I can see you. You're not being hidden. Everybody is. I can't see you on my actual stream unless I go on my phone. But that gets rather annoying because then I get taken away from my stream. But it's not showing me the comments on the side. But I can assure you, nobody on my end is blocking you. We don't have interest to block anybody. I mean, it's a waste of time. Unless you're sending a bunch of spam, I really don't care enough to block people. If I'm being real. It doesn't affect my day enough to where I'm like, oh, I need to sit here and be a dick and block I honestly don't care about that. It's more about the vibe. You know, I want the positivity and I want people to be helpful towards each other. Now, if somebody's being a dick and they're just purposely doing stupid stuff and trying to throw the rhythm off, I don't want you here to begin with. It ruins my energy, and my energy gets afflicted by a lot of things in life. I certainly don't need it to be from some tool. I gotta stop. JW saying, see, Tom, don't even start acknowledging it. So, lot to sit and diagnose here, because we are going into the thinly traded weekend again. It is nice to see these inverse patterns set up, but I also see where it could come back down and retest to make a inverse right shoulder. How I drew out on XRP, it's like that across the board. So, you know, it is set up like that to where, you know, you're like, hey, if we did bounce out of here, we could come up to 3.3 trillion again. But if we did break down, it's almost looking like that 1.9 trillion mark is almost set up. Maybe a little lower, but it's pretty close. So a lot to look at here. Definitely a lot to be decided still. And it's still far too early to make that deceptive decision. We're still waiting for some more data, like Jerome Powell always says. And the data is simply the unfilled chart still. We're waiting to see, because this is where it's going to have to get over short term. So if you get excited on it bouncing up, wait until it breaks that resistance before you get the ultimate excitement. You know, just from me to you. Don't get caught up in that short term nonsense, because it's got to get over certain areas. And it'll have to satisfy breaking certain resistance barriers that are starting to be built. And then it makes sense when you draw the pattern out more. So That's all I would tell you. Kind of take away that shorter term now that it broke out of there. Now you open it back up. Now that it broke, you open it back up. And then you can really see firm what this is supposed to do. So the total, it's got to get out of this. If it gets out of this, then all of a sudden, all of crypto, including Bitcoin and Ethereum, which would be probably heavier weighted, would start to have some kind of positive momentum. But we got to get past 2.79 trillion approximately. And you would like to see that before, you know, you start breaking down below 2.3 trillion approximately. And that average is going to vary, but that's kind of like a rough estimate. If we do the same exact thing in the total 3, which is all crypto besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, we can very well see that this is in fact trying to break out as we speak. And we're on the breakout section. So this looks like altcoins have a stronger chance here to push in the short term on a breakout as the range tighten. And we're definitely trying to do something. You can kind of look at how we started doing this. And then we broke this structure here finally. So, you know, it started to tighten down there. But the longer range, you can see exactly how it was. So if we fell back below, it's basically now if you fall back below 683 billion, you're looking for a destiny shot back down to 590 or 590 billion. That is not going to be good news. So, you know, for the alt tokens right now, like I said, we have a chance. Don't let the title fool you. Sometimes it's nice to see what others, you know, what you're seeing when you come in here instead of just reading a base, you know, the baseline. Because, yeah, could be an imminent drop. But at the same time, we can avoid that kind of a drop if we just maintain certain protocol. And my job in this live is, and I've taken it seriously, I haven't been paying attention too much to the comments, because I wanted to make sure more so than being everybody's friend tonight, and I'm friends with everybody. I like being friendly. I wanted you guys to be on the right track going into Easter Sunday. You know, and we give thanks. We don't forget to give thanks to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Yahweh, Yeshua, however you want to call our Lord. But remain humble. Show humility. Give thanks. We want to be respectful in here, but also be giving. We want to be helpful, not hurtful. We want to be positive, not negative. That aura, that feeling, that positivity, it travels. Just like the negativity travels. You know, so we want to do things that are functional, not destructional. You know, we don't want to be destructive. We can be constructive, but we don't want to be destructive. That always leads to wrong things. So I believe there's power in numbers. I think with unity, we can see more things than we ever would have. And by having all of you a part of this community, I see a lot more than I ever would have. Like, you guys can see a bull flag that could possibly be formed here, right? And if this pulls up, that's a bullish Gartley. And we would have some nice short-term potential here in the total 3. Like, I know you guys and gals can see this. And we'll base it on the breakout level. And if it does stay over this now, I mean, you're talking about, in the total 3, a short-term kick to about 800 billion. You know, so you're talking about a kick out to about 800 billion, 799, 800. And it doesn't seem like a big move, but you're talking about adding $50 billion onto the total 3. And that's not counting Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that's 7% more value that can be spread around the altcoins. Now, what does that mean for XRP? It's been commanding a hell of a lot of the capital outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum, which leads it in to the top portions for the total 3 when we actually have some surges. Solana's always up there and some others, but XRP definitely takes a piece of that puzzle. So if we get a 7% increase in the total crypto market cap, that's a 7% more money that has a chance to find its way to XRP. So, but at the same time, we've got to make this happen. We see where we're at. We see where we're at going into a thinly traded weekend. We have the Acer, you know, so I would love to see a push up at some point. I still think if we have a push up for Christmas, it feels like we would have to consolidate some and start to have that explosive nature, but we have back tested a lot here. The one could argue that Bitcoin is on that golden cross in the 4-hourly. XRP is on the golden cross in the 2-hourly. So it's just a matter of time. While I still have your attention, make sure you go in the video description of this very video or go to my homepage and look for BITUNIX or just a couple of these different things. BITUNIX has the lowest spot and leverage trading fees. I like to use it I can't send money or receive from a bank account, but I can send from other exchanges and send assets and so on and so forth, but I can trade. So if I see a swing trade on this holiday weekend, I could actually do a spot or leverage trade and not have to worry about the extraordinary fees, especially on the spot side. How many of you are sick of 2, 3, 4, 5, 7% fees just to buy and sell crypto? Crypto.com is like 2 or 3% at most times, but I still have to do it with DGB, but I'll be damned if I do it for everything else. So I use BITUNIX and I'll send stuff off and on. Other than that, you can do PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. You can join Tom's Army, which would be tremendous if some of you would join Tom's Army. Pay it forward, but it's obviously, it is what it is. I don't expect that. But I do appreciate everybody who does pay it forward with my work. I don't charge for any of my content. It's all free. I just like everybody to come in here and we learn day by day. I don't have any paywalls. I don't have any classes. I don't have any things that you have to buy so that you can learn. You know, I'm not going to tell you a buy-in or exit strategy just based on you giving me money. You get that strategy just by watching every day and doing your due diligence. So it's kind of one of those things. How much are you willing to put into it is how much you're willing to get out of it. So how much I'm willing to put into this is how much I'm willing to take back from it when the time is right, which means my own portfolio. And then just, you know, when you help people and they start to advance in their own portfolios, they tend to be generous. So if I'm doing a good job, you know, some of you actually helped me pay for my special needs son at the end of the day without even knowing it. So, you know, it helps me along my journey. So my work does favor what I do. And then it gets transcended through to my son. And he's, you know, pretty expensive with his cost of stuff. He does a lot of therapy and he's had a lot of bad stuff happen to him. But he's a trooper. So everything we do in the end all goes back into the center, you know. So this isn't a zero-sum game for me either on YouTube. There's benefits here. I meet a lot of people. More people see me. I start to learn more and more deeper and deeper, and I gain more knowledge. I don't know everything. The only one who knows everything is the guy who knows nothing. You know what I'm saying? So if you say you know everything, you literally know nothing. And if you say you know nothing, you're open to everything. But you should know something because you want to know that you're able to attain something. So don't discredit yourself by saying, I don't know anything. I know some things, but I should know a lot more. I need to know a lot more kind of thing. So, you know, I hope you guys take a lot out of this. And I did try to show you the bullishness, but in the title, it did show that I was in bearish mindset. So there's no second guessing it. You know where my mind is leaning. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I've given you every reason why I think I'm right, that it's probably going to go down. But at the same time, this is a case where I hope I'm wrong. And it's not even that I'm wrong. It's just my bias would be too far to the downside. But I don't know. I don't think I'm wrong. We're going closer into the weekend. You know, and it's starting to get into that time frame to where if something bad was going to happen, something is probably getting ready to set up. But if we were going to have some good fortune, we should have had a return today at some point. We should have had a return. Maybe it comes later. ZBCN is up 22%, so we'll see how it pans out. Did you get done with his, what? Did you do his feeding? Oh, did you do feeding yet or no? Oh. Okay. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go in about 5 or 6 minutes or so because my son's about to get his feeding, and I want to help Julie. We have all the kids here, so I just want to make sure that I can help her. But see, we still do the best we can, even with busy days, busy times. Hi. So. I honestly, I see some people say, I haven't really seen a lot of people talk, but the only time people talk precious metals is when it has a big day, you know, or when they see the mining stocks are up 30% in a week. But once it, like on a day like today, you don't really hear talk about it. You know, I'm telling you, I feel like it's a silent bull market. I'm not seeing it on the news and stuff like that, but you know, I don't watch everything, so I can't see everything either. I mean, that's basically all I got, folks. It's basically all I got. I've given you my all today. I appreciate everybody who's here every single day. I appreciate the members of Tom's Army. No donations for the last couple of days, which, you know, that is what it is. It doesn't change what I do. It doesn't change my perspective. But it does tell me You know, a lot are finding themselves in a bad spot right now, and it's not going to be fun. Especially the farther down if we keep going. If you are invested at the wrong times or you start to look at the wrong assets, this is not the time to be trying to find new and fancy kind of altcoins or fancy ecosystems that you had no clue about, but you watch some guy on YouTube, and and I'm a guy on YouTube, and now all of a sudden maybe you're like, oh my god, something he liked, but now you don't know that's something that that person liked that might already have 10x for them, and now they're not even on the burner, but they still talk about it because they like, you know, there's a lot of different things. So if you're going to invest into this market right now, like I always tell everybody, you better be sure that one, it's something that you like, two, that you have money in, that you are not afraid to let go volatile for a cycle, because in crypto it's the most volatile asset in the world. There's nothing that moves as volatile because it's not technically an asset because it has no income. So there's no dividends, there's no earnings, nothing like that. So it's very hard to track, but at the same time, it can have a massive returns because the standard return is going to get you, what, a couple percent here and there, especially if you're in a savings and things like that. But on crypto, you're going away from the standard. Even on a bond, you're looking at 3.5%. But on crypto, on any given day, hell, if you would have invested on ZBCN, for example, you know, at the start of the day, you could have made 21% in and out. You know, but that's like a dime a dozen. You know, there could have been a bunch of different wrong entries to where you're up 22% today, but you bought it and you're down 40% overall, and now you're only down about 30%. You know, and there's a lot of that going on too. So it's a very tricky, a very trying, and a very stressful market, but it doesn't have to be. You know, it doesn't have to be. You kind of just have to go in head first. You got to go in and just have your eyes wide open. And you kind of just got to go in with that perspective. Like, you really got to go in for that perspective. Wow, Joseph, thank you so much for the $10 donation. You saved me from 2 straight empty streams. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And also being in Tom Zone for 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. And then Papa Willie with the $5 donation says, Happy Easter, Tom. Happy Easter to you, my friend. Can we maybe take a look at heat maps quick? Yes, we can. And then I got to go because my son is about to get his feeding. He's probably already about to start. And I want to go inside. And I told Julie I would help. And, you know, you can't control your situation. I can't control my son. I can't control that he's been injured and he's special needs and he's got a feeding tube. But I can help with the fact that I can come here for times. And even if it's only 50 minutes sometimes, I think it's better to be here than not. So on the heat liquidation map, over the top at 226, there's about 520 billion. It's our biggest area. It's our single biggest area, around $2.25 to $2.30, which is our major resistance. Underneath, there is substantial volume to come below. 197, 199, 206 billion. Even if you come down to 170, you've got some liquidation all the way over the top at 253. There's about 200 billion as well. So there is some liquidation there. If we go to Bitcoin real quick, because how can you do XRP without Bitcoin? And we'll keep it in the monthly. So XRP has some over the top and then a little over under the bottom as well. Same difference with Bitcoin. There is a nice strong area, about 64 million at about 85,600. However, underneath, you got a little area down here at about 84,400. Nothing major though. There's nothing here that screams to me that says it has to go one way or the other. It's kind of mixed. This is kind of where you're caught in the middle because there's nothing real certain here. So there's not a lot real certain here. So that's what I got, everybody. The only certainty I can give you is that we're going to do one thing before I leave. And if you're a fan of this show, I think you know what it is. Because when it's gloomy, when we're uncertain, when it could go up or down and many are losing hope, there's only one thing we can do in times like this. And ladies and gentlemen, I know what time it is. Do you know what time it is? Ladies and gentlemen, the sun. Sunny days are here again. Oh, sunny days. Oh, what a day. Oh, sunny days. Oh, what a day. I wear glasses 'cause I can't see a motherfucking thing. Happy days. Oh, happy days. Oh, what a day. Oh, happy days. Oh, what a day. XRP will reign supreme. Let's just not forget the fun. Oh, we're gonna crash and we did and we will and we may and we won't and we will and we could and we will and we won't and they say we will and we have and we will and we won't and we did and we won't and we will and we will. Oh yeah. Stay true. Stay blessed. I think even the sun's gonna need to smoke after that, huh? So thank you all. I really appreciate it. I love leaving, you know, with the little sunny days. And he's going like surfing or something today. He's happy, smoking a stogie, getting away from the FUD. I love it.